Hey nerds, we are talking about Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Episode 9, All Those Who Wander. We are going to give our reviews of the episode and then get into a spoiler breakdown of the episode, starting now. Welcome to Nerd Social. Welcome to Nerd Social. I'm Nathan.
I'm Swetha.
And I'm Chandra.
So, to get to the spoiler breakdown, you can either look down there or over there. Also, we are going to do light spoilers in our review and assume that you watched the trailer. If you haven't watched the trailer, go up there and watch the trailer, because there'll be a link up there. Alright, so the spoiler-free logline from Paramount is the U.S.S. Enterprise crew comes face-to-face with their demons and scary monsters too when their landing party is stranded on a barren planet with a ravenous enemy. Swetha, what did you think of this episode?
Oh boy. I really liked it. I thought it was about time for one of these more emotionally driven episodes in a sense. I do think that they telegraphed a little bit too much though. I thought that there were bits of the episode that I think could have been hidden a little bit better for a better twist, but we'll get into that in the spoiler breakdown.
Okay, fair enough. And Conjure, what'd you think?
I enjoyed it as well, but it was more on the so-so side. I feel like they haven't fully thought through how they're dealing with this enemy or like the nature of this enemy, and that was a little distracting. And this sort of felt not entirely original, like the storyline. There was that, but I think it was a bit of a shocker and an emotional loss. So that I think was probably what redeemed the episode for me, or made it at least more engaging. That tension there, but yeah, it was sort of so-so for me.
Yeah, if you've seen the trailer, and you should probably go see the trailer because I'm going to at least spoil the fact that it's a scary episode. So it's a scary episode, and track has had a lot of these episodes. Just running down the list here: The Man Trapped for TOS, Wolf in the Fold from TOS, Frame of Mind, which I mentioned last week, from TNG. Schism was a really crazy episode where they were being taken to another dimension on TNG. Darkling and Voyager, The Thaw, which is also sort of another hologram episode, but I didn't mention it last week because it was frightening. That clown in that episode.
The whole episode is horrifying.
Yeah.
The Empok New episode when they go to the other station on DS9. Impulse into Enterprise, Dead Stop in Enterprise, and also just recently Discovery had Context is for Kings, where they went over to their sister ship. Yeah, there have been a lot of these kind of episodes. So I guess it was following in that vein. Although it was also a little derivative of Aliens, which again, that isn't necessarily a spoiler if you saw the trailer. But yeah, I like the episode. I could see what Swetha was saying about it telegraphing some things. Like, it wasn't a surprise to me. Some of the things that happened at the very end, what they decided to do at the very end, was a little bit of a surprise to me. But the problem at the end wasn't a surprise to me. And it was confusing to me that no one thought about it until the end. So yeah, that's one thing that we can talk about when we get into the spoiler breakdown. But in general, I like the episode. I think I'd probably give it a 7.5 out of 10. I think I had it as an 8.5 when I first saw it, but I've watched it several times over the last week now in preparation for this conversation, and it doesn't have as much rewatchability. Although there are some poignant parts in the episode, and the episode, just like every other episode this season, we have a voiceover from the person who it's sort of focused on, but it's not necessarily focused on that person, which is Uhura, but it's focused on a lot of different people in this episode, really. But I think that she probably has the most emotional things happen to her in this episode. I'll say that without getting into the specifics. So yeah, it was a good episode, but it was also a little derivative of other things that you've probably seen, except for the emotional parts in it, which were through lines from previous episode, which doesn't make it as disposable as it might have been if it was a straight rip-off of something else you've seen before, I think. Yeah. Any other thoughts before we get into the breakdown? No? Okay. All right. So before we do that, I should say, if you're enjoying the conversation, we encourage you to comment down below to join the conversation, like, subscribe, share, do all the things. We really appreciate it. We were trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of summer, so we can give you more content like this. All right, without further ado, we should get into the breakdown, because there's lots. There's a major thing that happens that we should talk about up front. So, spoilers ahead. Okay, so they killed Helmer for some reason.
That felt like so unnecessary.
Yeah, no one thought that the spraying of the thing was going to be an issue.
What is that?
I don't know. But I smell human blood.
until the very end.
So this,
Except for Lon.
I think this was my issue, because what are they doing with the Gorn? If you're going to take the time to feature this species like twice in this season, and there was already discrepancies with the first, do they hatch? Do they have live birth? And now it's okay, they spit on people and that is how they reproduce. And I'm just like it's a lot. And I think like that, and it felt more like Alien. So I'm like, I feel like they could have handled that a little bit differently.
I think they did mention earlier specifically in the Memento Mori episode, which was written by the same person. So this episode was written by Davy Perez, who wrote the Memento Mori episode. So I think in that episode she does mention they were like laying eggs inside of family members. So I think that was established in the previous episode. The method of actually getting those eggs inside of people wasn't very clear until this episode. But yeah, I suspected that he was infected as soon as he was shot with the venom.
Shocked that they were just like, yeah, it's just venom, you're gonna be fine. Like, it just seemed so obvious that something was going to happen with the eggs. Like, I just assumed it was spawning in him. I don't know, it's interesting.
Well, especially when nothing happened to his skin, because you like venom, I guess you figure you'll see an immediate effect. Something's gonna happen.
He said that he did say it burned, and maybe that was just the makeup department falling down, not showing what burnt Andorian or Enar skin would look like. But I think it was a little bit darker. I don't have any screenshots of that because we of course don't have screenshots from the screener that we were provided, and that would be a major spoiler to put in the trailer. So only have screenshots from the trailers. But yeah, I think his skin was a little bit darker. But yeah, he seemed to be like, I don't know, maybe they gave him painkiller, because after that scene when he came into sick bay, he says that it really stings. You didn't really hear him say anything else about it until they killed the Gorn at the end. And he's like, I know my body. I was like, there's something else. Yeah, I was expecting that shoe to drop at some point. And Lon knew. I feel like no one else could have put that together. I don't. Yeah, it didn't really make sense. And it annoys me for a couple of reasons, because I like Hemrain, and I feel like they could have told so many more stories about him in the show. I wonder if this is like a fake out death, because like Trek loves their fake out deaths. I even have a list of those, but they did fill him with Gorn eggs and then have him jump into a crevasse. So like, it's really difficult to come back from that unless you just want the actor to come back, and he has a twin brother called Yemmer or something like that. I'm not sure.
D&D.
Yeah.
They definitely had an actor player occurring, or like different members of the same species. There's hope that the actor could come back as a different Enar, maybe.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about
also that he was, I think, the first legally blind actor. Right? So I think, that loss of representation and diversity, I think, was, it's like, why?
I understand it provides some character growth for Uhura. He has a nice little speech with her in the middle of the episode.
You think I don't like making friends?
No. I think you love it. And deep down, that scares you, because your real fear is putting down roots.
So now you're a ship's counselor.
I understand. It is better to leave than to be the one left behind. But that's wrong. You create bonds. It's a gift. Of course, the people you care about are going to cause you pain. It will hurt, but the love it yields will far outweigh the sorrow.
And then he puts a button on it at the end before he makes his sacrifice. But I don't know. It didn't seem like necessary to me to do it this way. It was a little weird to be. I don't know that I would be upset with him dying if it wasn't as pointless as Tasha Yar's death in The Skin of Evil. So she was like killed instantly because Armish just wanted to see if death would amuse him or something like that. I think Jadzlia's death was more poignant than Tasha Yar's death, but not by much. It was both of those things were like contract dispute things while they cut those people. Yeah.
Also, I think in Tasha Yar's case, it might have been a little bit personal, from what I understand, of how the conflict and their contracting.
So I think that Crosby wanted to leave, so it's a little bit different than Jadzia. I think that the Jadzia thing was personal because I think she wanted to be on the show a little bit less, and they didn't want to give her any flexibility, and they just told her to go. But anyway, I don't know what the issue is here. It's like the Colbert death in the first season. Like, they wanted to kill someone off to show you that there's real stakes, but they brought Colbert back in the next season, which is, like I said, I don't know if he's going to come back next season, and I'm not sure how he would come back. Although Culber's neck was snapped, and I feel like that's something you can't necessarily come back from. And they came up with some convoluted reason why they were able to get him back. So, I don't know, time travel exists as a thing in this universe, so maybe. Yeah, I think there's been more fake deaths in Star Trek than ones that stuck. I could go through this list.
Like a soap opera, Days of Our Lives.
Yeah, they use death a lot to show stakes, but they also take it back sometimes in the same episode. I think Culber is besides Spock in the Wrath of Khan, Culber is the only other one that they didn't take back immediately. Spock died in one movie and he didn't come back until the next movie. So you had to wait years to see whether or not Spock was alive. Culber, last time, but like all the other ones are like in the same episode. Scotty and the Changeling was killed by Nomad, McCoy and Shore Leave. They killed Worf and Wesley in Hiding Q. Remember that battle scene? I think maybe Riker brought them back to life when Q was tempting Riker with a godlike power. So yeah, they usually come back, but I don't know, like I said, I don't know that they're going to bring Hammer back.
Yeah, coming back from this season.
I don't know. Like I said, time travel exists. There are all kinds of things that they could do. They could write something. Like they definitely did snap Culper's neck. So I don't know how they came back. They came up with some very convoluted reason why he was able to come back in the next season, which is fine because I like that actor and I wanted him to come back, and I was very annoyed that they killed him off. But I think people are going to be similarly annoyed for the reason that they were annoyed with Culber. Like you said, Condra, this was a little representation here. Killing off a gay character in the first season of Discovery is just as bad as killing off this visually impaired character. But I don't know. We'll see how people take this when they actually see the episode. I know people are really excited.
I also wonder.
I was going to
say that it might allow him to survive because they don't like the cold. So maybe, but then he's fallen to the bottom.
Giant crevasse.
So there's that.
He can't fly, so I don't know. I don't know.
You only think he's fallen all the way to the bottom.
Yeah, he could have fallen onto a ledge or something like that, and he could survive. Of all the people who went out into the cold and probably could survive, he is the only one of that group. So after there is some local wildlife he can eat, and I don't know, the temperature outside kills the Gorn because it's too cold for them. Maybe that's the reason that he survived. Actually, I'm not sure if you guys watched Lower Decks. Lower Decks had a whole run about how like officers come back from the dead all the time in the main cast. So
yeah, or like extras, the like one lieutenant who like finally made lieutenant.
Yeah, they killed the lieutenant, they killed Duke, they killed Cadet. I knew that. So speaking of telegraphing,
yes, how obvious it was that she was gonna die.
They had this whole ceremony at the beginning in the captain's quarters, and then we hear about this away wish, and I was like, okay, these two people are gonna die. Actually, I knew the cadet was gonna die as they landed, and Duke was acting stupid, like burning himself. It's okay, so Duke is gonna die too. They're gonna kill Duke too. But yeah.
As soon as Captain Pike was like, I want to take the cadets away on one last away mission, I was like, yeah, it's gonna be one last away mission for
yeah.
You're like, why not just take a phaser to the head? Like, it would be faster. Jeez.
Yeah, that was definitely telegraphed from the beginning. Yeah, so we don't have benefit of the trailer when we watch these in advance, but I didn't know what was going to happen on that planet, but I knew that someone was going to die, and I knew the cadet was probably going to
yeah, we're not getting out of this alive.
So there are definitely some other parts in this episode. As I mentioned in the spoiler-free section, like, it's mostly focused on this event and how it affects Uhura, because she has the log at the beginning mentioning that her rotation is ending and she doesn't like saying goodbye. She actually says that to Ortegas, and then later on she has the heart-to-heart with Hemmer in engineering. So they're kind of connecting. Earlier on in the season, we heard that information dump, that very awkward information dump that she gives about her family dying. And it makes sense. It makes sense that she doesn't want to get close to people because of what happened, because of the loss and the pain that will be associated with losing them. And then they kill off Hemmer at the end to put a button on that. But yeah,
But then she decides to stay.
No, it's ambiguous. It's ambiguous. The other thing that I forgot to mention at the beginning is that the way that this is set up is almost like a season finale, but we have one more episode. So it's ambiguous what's going to happen, because Han also leaves at the end.
Yeah.
So we lose two members.
I enjoyed the emotional juxtaposition between La'an's story and Uhura's story. I thought that was really interesting and is one of the better. I know I complained about the telegraphing, but I think it could have been very obvious to take Noonien like her perspective, right, for all of it. And I did enjoy, like, it was two people learning how to rebuild human connections with people that care about them, and the way in which they are stronger or can be made to feel strong again by connecting with others. I thought that was well done.
Even at the beginning of the episode, they were definitely pro getting help. She derisively says the counselor is a head shrinker, but she went, and another person might not go. So she's trying to work through her issues, and she sees a kinship with the girl, which is why she leaves and tries to help her out. She also has this sort of heart-to-heart with the doctor in the middle of the episode, and I appreciate that they actually added that to show that what happened last week is still bothering him, because of course it would, because they give you a bittersweet happy ending, but he's gonna miss the entire childhood of his daughter. He's not gonna have his daughter around, so he of course misses his daughter, so that is still lingering in the background. So I appreciate that they didn't drop that. They didn't have a whole lot of characterization for him this week, but they didn't really need to, because they had a whole episode with him. But having that one thing where he loses himself a little bit and mixes up Oriana with his daughter was another good piece in this episode. I think there are a lot of little, I think, good character moments, because there's also something going on with Spock in this episode as well. So there's a lot of things going on with everyone, and they connect to some of the things that happened earlier on in the season as well. I think that they could have continued to develop Hammer more, because I wanted to know more about Hammer before he made that sacrifice, besides the fact that he has the relationship with Uhura. I think his pacifist sensibilities, or not his sensibilities, pacifist ideology, which comes from his people, the fact that he doesn't like to work in teams, but he also has close relationships with people as well, which seems to be at odds, but he seemed to make it work, because he seemed to have a very close relationship with Ortegas. He had a close relationship with Uhura. The captain seemed to be very fond of him, so it would have been interesting to see more of him in the coming seasons. I'm still processing how I feel about it. What do you make of the Spock of it all, of this episode? So, like, the Spock, first, it seems like he was definitely afraid in the corridor when he was, like, jumpy, right? Which is a little for Spock. I know he's not emotionless, but he usually is more calm under pressure than this. Although this is also a younger Spock, but he did.
And he also did just see a crew member get
No, that was even before that. Before, when he was going to Duke to give him to help him with his burn, he was just walking through the corridors and in all it's just spooky walking through the corridors thing, and then the captain touches him on he jumps. So yeah, he was a little freaking out a bit. He was letting his emotions get to him, which is funny, because just before this he has this conversation with Chapel about how Duke was being foolish and prideful, but you could see that he's not completely cut off from his emotions after that. Yeah, and also he seems to let something out later on that he can't contain.
I will say, I think that there is something really interesting there. I thought if the Chapel line about him being human is misdirection, because it certainly seems like it goes outside the bounds of just his humanness. Although maybe you're right, this is a much younger Spock. He has much less control over every part of his being. But I don't know, when that scene really took me by surprise in a way that I was like, are they setting up for Spock to lose it completely and then rein it back in? I don't know. I'm really curious.
It was subtle until he exploded, because it seems like he kept leading up to him letting the rage out. There were a couple of things. So there was the scene where he was jumped or startled in the corridor with the captain and Benga. Then there was Duke dying and him being pulled away, and then Kirk chiding him for being an emotionless, pointy-eared robot, and he started having PTSD flashbacks of what happened. And then at the funeral, you can see the rage building in him when he's clutching his hand. So it's all building and building until he does go into the hall, the corridor and pop that panel. Yeah, it is shocking, but you could see it coming a little bit. I didn't expect him to have an outburst that strong, but you did see a little bit of it when he unleashed the rage to get the Gorn to come out in the corridor.
Yeah, to be clear, I thought the trajectory of his emotions made sense. I just don't know if I buy the resolution.
I don't think it's resolved at all. I think the point of it is that it isn't resolved. I don't think many things are resolved really in this episode. I think
I see it as continuing, a continuation, what we've seen from him earlier in the season as well, just that struggle to reconcile his human and Vulcan side and struggling with that. So it's not out of line, I think, and I think it's something that he's going to have to deal with, because we are watching a younger Spock. So how do we get to that much less emotion-filled Spock? I think they're just working, I think building on that tension between his two identities, his two cultures, and him trying to find a way. And they aren't emotional. The whole point is they feel so strongly that they have to contain it. Yeah, I'm curious to see like how they sort of
they were like a warlike species. Sorok brought them back from the brink of destroying themselves because, like you said, Contra, they feel emotion even more intensely than human, which is probably why he was concerned that he let something out that he can't control. He said that my mind has become weak, and I don't know. I thought, so like, the first time I watched this, I thought maybe when she said, "You're just human," it was an insult to him because he doesn't want to be human. But she does hug him, and he accepts that hug. And then they have a moment where they're super close, and then he turns around and walks away because of all the other weirdness that's going on with the two of them. So yeah, it's an interesting moment that's not resolved, and we'll see if it's resolved in the next episode. I haven't watched the next episode yet. We shall see if it's resolved in the next episode. I doubt that they're going to resolve everything, even in the show, but we'll see if it progresses in the next episode.
Yeah, I guess I think the thing that I'm wondering is whether this is like a more normal human Vulcan hybrid issue, or if there's something genuinely wrong with him. Yeah. Right. I'm not ruling out that there's like actual pathology.
Well, they did establish, I think when you and I were talking about this a few weeks ago, I think I said that he has autism. He does have autism. That's more to Paul. He's dyslexic.
Yes.
I don't know how that might affect the way that he's processing everything, or if that might play into what's going on with him. So you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, so there's a lot of interesting things that happen in this episode. It might be scaffolded on like a derivative plot, but they have some interesting character beats with Spock and Lahan and Uhura, to a certain extent with Hemmer, even if we don't necessarily like the way that Hemmer went out, or are bummed about the way Hemmer went out. Even like I said, the little touch with the Doctor, I appreciate it, that they didn't drop that he still cares about his daughter and misses his daughter. Yeah. Even though Nurse Chapel's contribution here was really in relation to Spock, I appreciate the way that she played her fear in this episode. Like, everyone's professional here, but you could see that she was afraid. She was shocked because, like, there's two dead bodies in front of her. And Lahan is like taking it like, okay, we got to move on to the next thing. And she's like in shock and she can't really process. And she needs a beat. And I appreciated that little beat in the script, and also from the actor as well. So yeah, people are doing good work in this episode. I think,
yeah, she's the only one, I guess, who doesn't have that Starfleet, like any sort of
Kirk
training,
has that
right? I guess.
He sort of freaks out too. He's usually losing his crap a little bit. Like, at least she's not lashing out at people like Kirk is. Yeah.
That's true.
So yeah, I think Hemmer's speech at the end was good. I think Hemmer's conversation with Uhura was good. I think everyone, like I said, is doing really good work here. I just like pulling off Hemmer. And yeah, and I have to come to terms with it.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Also, like, how fast it is going, though.
Depending on the hope.
So, yeah, days spends hours for...
Oh, no, not from, like, when they emerge.
Yeah, still deadly, because that one popped out of Buckley. By the way, the makeup and also the prosthetics and the animatronics on that alien were awesome. That's some Emmy-winning work there. But yeah, they popped out of Buckley, and one of them immediately killed Cadet Chia. So yeah, they're so deadly. Yeah. And also, the one that size actually killed Duke too. But yeah, it seems once they have a meal, they start to get big very quickly.
Very quickly. Yeah. But, oh wow.
Yeah, it's of the Gorn later on in the episode makes sense after they ate all of Duke. If he
consumed, if he ate all.
Yeah,
that's a pretty rapid growth, though. But I'm not a xenobiologist, so.
Yeah, I think they've had a couple things this season on the biological level that has probably annoyed you, Contra.
It's just like, why? I feel like you make it unnecessary, right? Because there were Gorn already there.
So they weren't any that weren't like gestating inside of a person. I think they were all dead. They went outside with the crew, and then the crew got caught in a snowstorm, so they died outside of the ship. So yeah.
It's just, make it make a little bit more sense. It'll be fun. But I also was not like a fan of the Alien movies. Are just not my bag. Popping out. So they lost me right there.
Yeah, I think that there'll be people there'll be people that appreciate it and think it's fun. It's a fun homage. There'll be people that think it's too derivative of Aliens. It's not exactly the same as Aliens, but it's very close. And that's obviously what they were trying to reference with the popping out of the body. But yeah, and there are people who never liked Aliens like you and don't like things popping out of people's bodies because it's sci-fi horror basically. So, yeah. I don't know. Did we miss anything? I think we talked about pretty much everything that happened in the episode. I thought maybe we would get what Uhura was doing, because Uhura apparently had a priority 1 mission as well to deliver those batteries to the space station. But I read the episode description for the next episode, and it's not that. So I guess we don't ever find out what Uhura was doing on that mission. I guess it was far less eventful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You mean Una?
Yes. I meant Una. Not Uhura.
Yeah.
Number 1.
Yeah. Presumably the
mission went smoothly. So they lost three.
Not a great day.
We had a funeral at the end. So yeah, we got a little bit more from Ortegas, but I feel like they have one more episode left, and I don't think they're going to focus on Ortegas in the last episode. I think they're going to bookend it with Pike. They really need to have some Ortegas episodes out of the gate next season. I know they're already starting to shoot the next season of Strange New Worlds. I think they're shooting it right now. So hopefully we get more Ortegas in season 2. Any other thoughts? No. Okay, that is what we think. But we are interested to hear what you guys think. So please comment down below, join the conversation, like, subscribe, and we will see you next time. All right, guys. Thanks. Bye.